Hi, my name is Kroth. I'm a professor in California, and this is a new video about a strange topic. There are two men fighting over a woman. There are two men fighting over a woman. There are two men fighting over a woman. There are two men really fighting over a woman. And we're going to talk about jealousy, male competition, and territoriality as more biological than you might believe. So, primates, those are two male lions fighting over a female. Here are two male cheetahs fighting over a female. So we begin with part one of this talk on male territoriality and breeding rights. So, I'm not trying to justify anything, male behavior. I'm not making a rationalization or an excuse for male behavior or socially unacceptable male behavior. But this is an attempt to understand male impulses more deeply. Now, an anthropologist named Lionel Tiger wrote an absolutely important book called The Territorial Imperative. I would rank that in the top 10 books in psychology that I have ever encountered. And he wasn't a psychologist. Here's a bird, a male bird.
Males begin these flamboyant displays weeks before female redwings return from southern wintering grounds. This display by the male in the foreground is directed at the male in the background, a strong signal of territorial ownership. Resources at stake include food, tall ground cover in which to nest, and water for drinking and bathing.
He scared off the other male, said, "Not in my backyard." Here's an alpha male lion, followed by lesser lions in the hierarchy. So there is a whole organization of sex, genes, and territoriality. In one Wyoming observation, they had 355 cocks and 141 hens. And the champion males fought each other for 5 different territories. They watched this breeding season. And in total, 3/4 of all the matings were done by only 4 dominant males. There were 355 aspirants, but only 4 were privileged to fertilize the female. So, in the animal kingdom, there are harems. This is an elephant seal male who has between 20 and up to 150 females who he guards as his harem. He's the strongest male, and he spreads his genes as he is programmed to do. So this male is gigantic and bellows a very deep, loud sound to any predator who comes close or competitor, and frequently engages in combat to protect his flock. So he is, in fact, a breeding machine. Now, that sort of carries over into the human kingdom. Here's the king of Saudi Arabia with his 30 wives. Interesting. There's Muammar Gaddafi, who had a whole regiment of women at his disposal. Probably the most profligate male was Genghis Khan, who is said to have fathered 10,000 children, and type B blood seems to be traced to him. That area that you see in color, those are the genes of Genghis Khan. 8% of men from Asia they trace their lineage to this one man. And this is all the areas of blue are where polygamy is legal or it's practiced in one way or another. So the animal kingdom and the human kingdom have certain polarities, but there's more.
Gelada baboons. Geladas live in small family groups consisting of a breeding male plus a harem of up to 6 females and their offspring. They're also known as bleeding heart baboons because of the distinctive red heart-shaped markings on their chests. But geladas aren't true baboons, just close cousins.
He is perhaps one of the most evil men in America. But before Ariel Castro was sent away to serve his life plus a 1,000-year prison sentence, one of his victims had a chance to confront her tormentor in a packed Cleveland courtroom.
So that guy held a number of women in his basement in Cleveland for 11 years as prisoners, and he had sex with them. And he was sentenced to life in prison plus 10 years, but he was actually killed in prison. So there's more here. Charles Manson had his own wannabe harem. But the interesting thing is residual effects. Not every man, every male that you know wants to have a harem, right? Okay. We consider it primitive and regressive for sure, but look at this data. This is a poll of men who've had 21 or more sexual partners. 17% of men have still been in a way promiscuous as they are in the animal kingdom. 17% of men have had 21 or more sexual partners. Only 3% of women belong in that category. So men, or males that is, see their females as property. So this is a male guarding his harem, but another male comes along. Watch what happens. He scares him off. You stay out of my territory.
But this husband has come home to find his wife with another penguin. He flips out. His strategy is simple: batter the homewrecker until he flees.
Now, this is a human drama, which is right out of the animal kingdom.
What do you mean, what am I doing here? What do you mean what I'm doing here?
Just go, okay? Just move this around.
Oh, come on, man. You're leaving with me. You don't deserve to be here.
No! Just go. Respect yourself.
Just
go, please.
Just
Stop, okay?
Wait for daddy.
Say shit. Go.
All right, listen to me, young man. I don't know who you are or what you think. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Just everything to me. Shut up. Just listen, everything to me. You pick up your very ill-mannered self and get out of my house before I do something stupid.
Okay. Now, there's kind of Lionel Tiger says it's kind of like an algorithm, a male biogram, he calls it. And the idea is compete for territory, gain access to females, eliminate competition, eliminate stepchildren. After all, your job is to spread your genes, not to take care of somebody else's. And spread your genes exclusively. So animals who take over from a alpha male need to kill all the children, all the babies. Territorial male tends to be primarily a male biologically based phenomena across species. It happens in freshwater fish, it happens in bees, it happens in other forms of males throughout the animal kingdom. It happens in tigers, and the result is what is called the Cinderella effect. Remember, Cinderella was the stepchild, and she was treated poorly, not like the biological children. This is a male baboon who's taken over, and now he's going to try to kill all of the babies and have his own exclusive harem. And the females are running away, trying to protect their babies, because his intent is to kill them all, and then to have it all. And then they go into estrus, and he fertilizes the new crop. This happens throughout many different species. So for now, the residual effects of this with humans are very interesting. Fathers, for example, spend twice as much time with their genetic offspring as they do with stepchildren. Isn't that interesting? They care more for their own genes. It's called inclusive fitness. Children who are murdered are 40 to 100 times more likely to be killed by a step parent than a natural parent. So you can see these parallels between the animal kingdom and the human male society. Now, there are a number of parts to this lecture, and we're going to move on to part number 2, which is called testosterone, the male biogram, and breeding.
Powerful. At the same time, one of the most mysterious hormones we know about. It's been with humankind since the dawn of history. Actually, a lot before that, because all mammals, and indeed many other species, have testosterone. It does one thing, and one thing only. It causes males to be able to reproduce. But in that simple sentence lies great complexity. Because in order to reproduce, you have not only to be fertile, you have to be sexy, you have to be competitive, you have to be aggressive, you have to be attractive. And all these things, testosterone plays a major role. And that means it has lots of other things it does as well, like male bonding, because males have a function in society, which is to protect society, to protect their group, to defend it against enemies, particularly for young men. Therefore, testosterone makes men like taking risks, like being combative, like having thrills. And so testosterone is found not only in reproduction, but in all aspects of society, including the way we behave, the way we organize ourselves, where we fight wars, why we have street gangs. And on its brain, it acts not only to activate sexuality, for which it's essential, and maybe to determine sexuality, though that's not quite so well established, but there are strong hints this may be the case. But it also enables him to carry out the sorts of behavior which are essential for successful reproduction, like the sense of competing with other males, the desire to win, the thrill of competition, the ability to combine with other males to form cohesive groups which both defend the society and, of course, assault and attack other societies. And from there's an obvious progression to the role of testosterone in war. So throughout history, we see the imprint of testosterone. And much of human society, a modern human society, which is manufactured by the human brain, as indeed is much of the modern world, much of modern human society is devoted to controlling testosterone. So we have laws and customs and religion which regulate and channel the way testosterone is expressed in our society.
That last sentence is quite important. Now, at puberty, a boy will grow and produce 10 times more testosterone than a female. And his voice changes, grows secondary sex characteristics. By adulthood, a human male, weighs 15% more than a female and is 6 inches taller.
I didn't have that many solos with the Temptations, but you always knew when you heard blue.
So there are obvious changes that happen to a boy at puberty. Quite a change. So the higher the testosterone, the higher the dominance, the higher the rank, and the greater the mating behavior in primates. Now watch this graph. I don't know if you can see it quite properly, so I have added to it. These are male mice. And on the left side, you see how many times they're biting each other. 800 times per session or so. It rises to that. Then they're castrated. The pre-castration goes up to 800, but then when they're post-castrated, the biting goes down to less than 50, from 800 down to 50. And then they add testosterone to these castrated mice, and the biting comes almost back to 600. So testosterone is definitely related to male aggression. And it declines with age. It reaches a maximum at 20. By the time you're 40, it's about half. By the time you're 70, it's about less than a third. So here's another aspect of testosterone. 90% of all homicides are committed by males, okay? Now, what's interesting is that 78% of those homicides are males killing other males, just like in the animal kingdom, for resources and breeding rights. Resources, 85% of all burglaries are committed by males. Breeding rights, 98% of all rapes are committed by males. There was a warden in a prison who said, "I think we should let all males who are over 40 or over 50 out of prison because their testosterone is lower and their aggression levels are down." It was an interesting argument. This is what we call toxic masculinity, the modern term for it. Now, an epiphenomena means that something that's happening at a lower level is expressed at a higher level. So we see birds and animals who are full of testosterone displaying their plumage. Well, humans do the same. Human males do the same thing. There's a male peacock getting ready for breeding with his display. And here's a man displaying his testosterone and his muscular strength and his plumage. And his symbolic plumage, meaning that he has property. He has a certain way of dressing that communicates. He has a muscle car. He has wealth. And all of that is to attract the female. Interesting from Dave Chappelle.
Mental difference in the way we're going to see things. We're not going to see eye to eye on this issue. We're just not. Our tests in life are different. A woman's test in life is material. A man's test in life is a woman. Now, by test, I mean that those are the things that we desire. Men have nice cars. Not because they like nice cars, because they know women like nice cars. That's how it goes. Because men are hunters, and the car is the bait. And a woman comes and says, "Ooh, nice Porsche." Gotcha, bitch.
Here are two male reindeer, and one was farmed and was raised in the wild. And someone was measuring the strength and the frequency of their cries. And the lower the cry, the more testosterone. So I wrote to this Russian and I asked him a question. I said, were the voices of the farmed reindeer lower than the wild reindeer or vice versa? And he wrote back and said, no, the voices of the wild reindeer were lower. Okay. So now this is, I had a great BBC film clip for you, but YouTube wouldn't allow it. So this is a study that was done by a group of anthropologists about alligators who have such a low mating call you can't hear it. It's at 19 hertz. So they took these speakers that were subwoofer speakers like you've never seen before and broadcast it to this lake of alligators to see if it would induce the mating season. And the alligators started to bellow their deep bellow, which causes what is called the water dance. So they initiated the mating season through this broadcast of these loud sounds. So that happens now. There was a study commissioned by a British insurance company which tested saliva swabs that measure arousal levels in women to the sound of various motor cars. Women responded off the charts to the sound of a Maserati or a Lamborghini and a Ferrari, but they showed no reaction to a VW's Polo. They didn't see the cars, they just listened to the sound. The sound has something to do with this primeval level of testosterone. Here comes the Maserati. Here comes the VW. Now, Maserati made a commercial from this research. Watch. There's an attraction of men to muscle cars and to low-sounding cars, and they associate women, attractive females, with their hot rods. The word hot rod is really another name for engorged penis, right? These commercials always seem to feature women standing next to the car. Now, let's talk about the residual effects. Women were asked, are you more attracted to a man who drives this kind of car or this kind? 32% are attracted to men who drive pickup trucks. Only 2% are attracted to men who drive minivans. 27% are attracted to men who drive sports cars. More empirical studies. Men with lower voices had higher levels of testosterone. Women favored men with lower voices. 500 women were tested. Men felt threatened by men who have lower voices. That's interesting. A lower pitch made men attractive to women, but it especially made men seem more dominant to other men, said anthropologist David Putz at Penn State. A second study corroborates this finding, comparing women's reaction to deep male voices. Men who drove sexy cars, listen to this, had an increase in testosterone themselves just by driving the car. One of the most deep-voiced singers in America was named Barry White. David Letterman did a funny thing with him.
Gubernatorial.
Number 8. Baby. Ooh, baby.
Doohickey.
Jeez, I thought doohickey would have been a little higher up. Number 7.
Dweeb.
That's coming out and
I don't have the slightest idea.
Yeah?
Yeah, they keep coming. They come so fast and they go so fast. It's hard to, get a hold on somebody.
Right, but you've got that enduring sound that seems to last on
I'm
and
very
on.
fortunate.
You're very. I just want you to talk. I don't care what you say. You could order chicken McNuggets from me right now, and I'd get them and love it.
So that's what the sources for that information. Let's go on. More empirical studies on testosterone. In a study of 8,000 women, men with visible stubble or beards were preferred over clean-shaven men. Signs of testosterone. Even when asked about a male with whom they could have children and settle down, the more facial hair, the better. So let's summarize. The displays and symbols for testosterone: deep voice, loud voice, facial hair, signs of secondary sex characteristics, signs of testosterone, strength, vitality, attractiveness, risk-taking, aggression, and competitiveness. This is part of the algorithm, the male deep primate algorithm. Now, here's Freud's iceberg. Do you remember that? The top part is the conscious male. The bottom part is the less conscious. So let's take a look at, this is all just one person now. So this is the conscious male. He's monogamous in this society in the 21st century. He's caring. He's empathic. He believes in equal rights for women. He believes in gender equality. He believes in sharing and child rearing. He is probably clean shaven. Okay? But this male, who's the same person, is territorial, dominant, seeking multiple sex partners, seeing women as objects and property. Sex and power and aggression are important. The will to win, to predominate, all of that we sort of call toxic masculinity. But there it is. The guy on top drives a minivan. The guy on the bottom drives a Maserati. And they're all one guy. Now, when men act out in human society in the 21st century, this territorial biogram, this is not acceptable. And the territorial biogram is, one is not enough. I have to spread my genes everywhere. So it is reprehensible, it's embarrassing, it's compromising, it's illegal. There are apologies. This is Anthony Weiner, a congressman who was sexting or texting his picture of his penis in his underwear to somebody. He was married. He had to resign from Congress. Eliot Spitzer was a very good attorney general, went out with a call girl, had to resign. These two were very much in love, but he cheated on her and wanted someone else too, and that was the end of that relationship. We know about this situation. One is not enough. And of course, we know about this situation. One is not enough. So, and of course, there's Harvey Weinstein. So, sleaziness, toxic masculinity traces itself to this biogram. Male promiscuity is an epiphenomena of the primate biogram to spread genes in the competition and survival of the fittest. The most dominant male has the most testosterone, the most wealth, the most children. This is the wealthiest person in the world. He just had his 14th child. So now we're going to go to part 3, males in groups, hunters, loyalty, brotherhood. This is another part of this mysterious, unconscious male algorithm. So Lionel Tiger wrote another book called Men in Groups. Lions, orcas, wolves, African wild dogs, hyenas, chimpanzees, and some fish hunt in packs. They hunt in packs. But what makes humans unique is that humans have the ability to use tools and the ability to hunt in packs. That distinguishes them from all other predators. Tiger says, humans are the most successful predator on Earth. So because we males hunt in packs with tools, they can overcome anything. They can overcome a mastodon, a mammoth, but it depends upon group cohesiveness. If one of the members of the group defects or runs away, the whole group is impacted. So life and survival, we're talking about the first 180,000 years of of Homo sapiens on this planet. They were hunting in packs with tools. Semper fidelis, always faithful. Defectors are cowards and are punished as such. Marlon Brando says, "Don't tell me what they said about me. Tell me why they were so comfortable to say it around you, you potential traitor. If you're part of the brotherhood, you better be part of the brotherhood." So flags, plumage, territory, blood kinship, all of that belongs to the gang. This is a picture of the mafia. The gang has initiation rites, tattoos, symbols. Here's the oath. "I swear that I shall know neither father nor mother, nor brother, nor sister, nor wife, nor child, but the brotherhood, along where the brothers lead or pursues. There shall I follow or pursue. Its foe shall be my foe." So there are lots of examples of this brotherhood throughout human history. And they're tattoos which are often territorial. States, cities, locations, streets. Symbols of the brotherhood is not just underground. The military has the same plumage, the same loyalty. These are prison gangs, and these are their tattoos. They show them from, look at the bottom left, Piru. He's got Piru tattooed on his chest. He's a member of the Bloods of Los Angeles, which is named after Piru Street. It's named after a street, a territory. Those are a map of all the gangs of Los Angeles, territorial gangs. This is a New Zealand football team doing their ancient dance. Conclusion. Males congregate in groups for survival, guard territory against intruders, depend on one another for defense, and they hunt together for resources. That's what they did for 180,000 years. They are identified in human, more cultured societies by tattoos and symbols of their territory, Pyrrhus Street. And those who betray the oath are taken as cowards and are punished accordingly. Now, we're starting part 4, called the male biogram in sport. Remember the word epiphenomena. It means something that's occurring at one level reflective of something at a lower level. Sport is a symbolic ritual. Sport is a symbolic ritual which commemorates male bonding, aggression, mating, and territoriality. So watch. Sport is played in a coliseum or a stadium and watched by fans. Coliseum comes from the Latin word colossus, gigantic. Fanatic, fan in Latin means fanaticus, insane, but divinely inspired frenzy, freneticus. Okay, a sports fan is in a gigantic coliseum experiencing a form of divine insanity. Translation: sports are rituals acted out. Sport is different. Sport substitutes victory and defeat for life and death. Sport is symbolic of the struggle. Bands of males fighting over territory and breeding rights. Basketball. These are men, a group of men fighting another group of men over trying to put an object in a net. In hockey, we're excluding female sports for a time being, okay? We have a group of males from a territory, Chicago versus Montreal, fighting. In football, the same group of males fighting over territory. But it's not just a fight over territory. It's a fight over breeding rights, which is scoring. Okay? We're trying to put a seed in a female receptacle, a puck in a net, a basketball in a hoop, a football between two legs. Now I'm going to read you this. Stick with me now. This comes from a book, you won't believe the title. It's called Sperm Wars. I'm going to read this now. The reproductive tract inside a female chimpanzee becomes the battleground for a sperm war that takes the place over the course of several days. Only one sperm among all the billions within her vaginal tract and uterus can win the prize of fertilizing the egg. In fact, only a very small percentage of sperm, perhaps as little as 1%, are even capable of fertilizing the egg. The rest of the sperm have an entirely different function. The other 99% of the sperm consist of what are called blockers or kamikaze sperm. Their function is to prevent the sperm of other males from reaching the egg.
And this is because in most species, a female will mate with multiple males. And therefore, within a female reproductive tract, there can be, for example, sperm from multiple males directly competing in literally the race to the egg.
We took the view that maybe these have a role, and it struck us that what they could well be doing in sperm competition, instead of trying to fertilize eggs themselves, is to try and stop other male sperm from fertilizing eggs, either by just getting in their way, blocking passages through the cervical mucus, wrapping themselves around them, or doing something much more dynamic and exciting, like roaming around trying to kill sperm from other males. And so, because that's kamikaze type behavior,
So they have defense and offense, right? Only one sperm makes it through to fertilize the ovum. Only one player scores a goal, makes the hoop, scores the touchdown. In hockey, only one player gets the puck in. Only in soccer, only one player. In football, only one player. In basketball, one player. Vicarious territorial hysteria, scoring a goal, is considered by the fanatics orgiastic, ecstasy.
Jos itse olisin coach, niin laittaisin hänet ilman muuta juuri näissä tilanteissa. Koko voittaa aloituksen. Siinä on Kaapolla paikka. Nyt muuten lähdetään hakemaan. Kaapo! Yes! Kaapo käänteli jopa!
again. 6 yards out this time, using his legs to pound it in. United States up 21-0. But Germany bounces back. Ulrich back to throw again, lobs it deep to Christian Ballman. 24-yard touchdown. Germany's on the board. It's 21-7. And check out Ballman's celebration. Goes up and hugs the goalpost. He'd be flagged, but well worth.
Here comes Barrera again. He puts it across. It's a no-goal goal.
Now, Lionel Tiger calls it the inspired lunacy of the proprietor in defending its homeland. The proprietor's behavior, the territorial behavior, is like a lunatic. He's describing it. It's ferocious, sometimes to life and death. Proprietors and intruders. Watch. The home team and testosterone. Odds favor the proprietors. The home team has been measured as having higher testosterone before the game. Home teams win 60% of the time. In basketball, home teams win 62.7% of the time. In hockey, home teams win 59% of the time. In football, home teams win 57% of the time. In sum, sport is an epiphenomena of a territorial biology. It is a ritual symbolizing the basic elements of the territorial imperative: proprietors versus intruders, bands of males cooperating for the purpose of survival, victory, and breeding success, scoring. All acted out in a coliseum for the vicarious celebration of fans, inspired fanatics. Okay. This is the final element of this, the male biogram in politics. How does that express itself? Remember, the alpha male in the animal hierarchy protects, defends, breeds, spreads his genes far and wide, and eliminates competition. So how does that reflect as an epiphenomena in human politics? Well, do men vote for alpha males more? Yes, they do. Take a look. These are males who voted for Clinton, Obama, Trump the first time, Trump the second time. Obviously, the alpha male is getting more support from males. Well, what about women? Are women increasing their role in government? Well, here's an example of how many women are in Congress. In 1960, about less than 5%, but now it's up to 30% of women are in the House of Representatives. So it's not completely a male fraternity anymore. But females are also attracted to alpha males with facial hair, deep voices, signs of strength, and in the human arena, signs of wealth and power. When a woman ran for versus a man ran for president, how did women vote? Strangely, 44% still voted for Trump against Hillary, and 45% voted for Trump against Kamala. It's a minority, but it's still a sizable minority. The primate territorial imperative is still alive in human society. Now, the alpha male is known for chest beating off competition, making all sorts of loud noises.
Chest beating is actually a form of communication. When a gorilla beats its chest, it's not just going off. It's sending a message. That loud sound can be heard from nearly a mile away. And it's not always about aggression. Gorillas beat their chest to avoid fights. By showing off their size and strength, they can intimidate rivals without ever throwing punches.
And the alpha male often tries to show his power and strength by displays of dominance. And he also, the alpha male also is proud of his possession of attractive females. Kind of illustrates. He used to own the Miss Universe contest, and he likes to be photographed with the symbolic harem, not the real harem, but the symbolic harem. So possession of multiple females communicates dominance, power, and prowess. There are the 30 wives of the Saudi king, and there are the 120 wives of the elephant seal, and there are the symbolic wives of the dominant male. Now, the proprietor's territorial political platform is all about intruders. We have to keep out Mexican intruders, drug smugglers, and rapists. The Muslim ban, keep out Muslim intruder terrorists. Deportation, remove intruders from the homeland. Add tariffs to keep out exploitation by intruders. These are all alpha male priorities. The same is true for the gorilla, the wasp, the elephant seal, defining its borders and fighting off intruders. That is the political platform of the proprietor against all intruders, the political platform of the territorial imperative.
I can tell you one thing, you are protected, okay? You are protected. Nobody's going to mess with our people. Nobody is going to play games. Nobody is going to put our people in that kind of danger.
Now, the main problem with all this is in politics. Some animals fight to the death to protect their territory: lions, deer, wasps, blackbirds. If you put two male betta fish in the same aquarium, they will fight to the death until one of them wins. The proprietor's lunacy is incredibly powerful. It's insane, uncontrollable, irrational, often. This is a grandfather who was killed over a fender bender in a Walmart parking lot. A man was killed in Harris County over a property line dispute. A Colorado suspect was killed 3 people because his property line came too many inches into the other guy's territory. Norman Scott shot and killed his neighbors over a dispute involving a basketball hoop and property line boundaries. A white man, Ralph Yary, shot a black teenager after he rang the wrong doorbell. A man was charged with murder following a parking dispute. This is mine. No, it's not. It's my site, not yours. When territoriality gets
really dramatic scenes, and I've put on my flak jacket because you can see we now have some serious clashes. Palestinian protesters have been throwing stones. Israeli soldiers have been firing back with tear gas, with rubber bullets and live bullets as well. Another big Palestinian protest here in Hebron. There have been lots of these in recent days, and right now the city feels really on edge.
Now, the majority anthropologists have looked at wars, or historians. The majority of all wars, like 52%, involve proprietors against intruders, territorial disputes. An attack by an intruder can set off a territorial explosive reaction, passionate, fundamentally irrational. When the territorial response is triggered, it can lead to mass behavior, groups, madness, collective hysteria. So, when territorial intrusions occur, inspired lunacy can take over among the proprietors. And when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, nobody needed to be drafted. Thousands of people dropped out of college, quit their jobs, volunteered. Hundreds and thousands of young men volunteered to protect their country. They didn't need to be drafted. after that attack. Invasion by an intruder triggers an instinctual response. Now, the danger in modern warfare is that it can spark irrationality and collective madness when calm minds and rationality are needed the most. Early signs of the passions. Now, I don't want to be speaking against Trump. I want to illustrate something, but I'm trying to stay out of this foray of for or against. I just want to raise some issues here. America First is a very territorial response. Trump was the first person to attend the Super Bowl. There's a reason for that. It's arousing. That arouses the territorial response, USA, USA, USA. And contagion spreads to Congress here.
And one count.
Now, to a psychologist, there's a danger in that, okay? Now, there's good sides and bad sides to territoriality. I'm not trying to make a value judgment. Oh, bad, bad, bad. No, I'm not. So watch. The good sides of territorial behavior is you protect the society. Criminals get arrested. You cut spending and deficits, tariffs against intruders. You seal your borders against intruders, terrorists, illegal migrants. And what this is called nationalism, patriotism, populism. People are aroused to defend their country. There are some good elements to that. But there are also not such good elements to it. The inspired lunacy of the proprietor, USA, 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 can get us all killed. I want to talk to you about the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Ukraine War as illustrations of the dangers. Here's a short film clip that I made on another video about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Watch carefully.
The most dangerous moment in human history. And you probably know this history, but there's something here that you don't know. So Soviets are sending missiles to Cuba. Kennedy says we can't allow that to happen. He quarantines and blockades Cuba. Kennedy versus Khrushchev. His Secretary of Defense is Robert McNamara. It gets very, very, very tense, and finally the Soviets turn back and retreat. And that's the story everybody was told. Kennedy gets a lot of applause. Khrushchev is the blue meanie. He was removed from power about a year later. But that whole story is what people have absorbed, and it's not particularly true. Here's the truth. In 2000, in the 21st century, a conference is held in Havana. All of the parties from the Cuban Missile Crisis of 40 years earlier meet, and they learn something they never knew before. The Soviets had nuclear-tipped torpedoes in their submarines. We didn't know that. We were dropping depth charges on Soviet submarines and forcing them to the surface, but we didn't know they had nuclear weapons that were armed, okay? There were three commanders, three officers, Masalinikov, Savitsky, and Arkhipov. They were out of communication with Russia, with Moscow. They were understanding orders that if you are attacked, use your nuclear-tipped torpedoes. Two of them, Savitsky and Masalinikov, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, said, fire. Okay? Now, if they fired a nuclear-tipped torpedo and destroyed the American Navy, we would have instantly retaliated against Moscow. Moscow would have retaliated against us, and we were that close to World War III. Arkhipov said, don't fire. They said, that's treasonous. We were taught, you're going against standing orders. And Arkhipov said, he stood his ground and said, please do not do this, okay? Vasily Arkhipov basically saved the world from annihilation.
In October, there was a retrospective meeting, the 40th anniversary meeting of the missile crisis, Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. It was attended by key participants, high-level participants in the U.S., Russia, and Cuba. They knew at the time that it was a very dangerous period, the most dangerous moment in history. Kennedy's advisor, Arthur Schlesinger, described it as. What they found out last October just blew their minds. It turned out that the world was literally one word away from what would have been a terminal nuclear war. It was that close. And submarines had been under attack by U.S. destroyers. The submarine commanders thought a war was on, meaning a nuclear war. They had nuclear-tipped missiles, and two of the commanders ordered them sent off, which would have led to a devastating nuclear response, wipe out Moscow. They'd respond by wiping out New York, and in a couple of minutes it's all over. Why didn't it happen? Well, a third Russian submarine commander countermanded the order. That's why we're around to talk about it. It was that close.
Okay. Let's talk about Cuba and Ukraine. Who's the proprietor and who's the intruder? Well, Cuba had the right as an independent and sovereign country to make a military alliance with whomever it wanted, and it chose to make a military alliance with Russia. Therefore, the U.S. was the intruder. Ukraine has the right to, as an independent and sovereign country, to make a military alliance with whomever it wants, NATO. Therefore, Russia is the intruder. But perception is reality. So to the United States saw Soviet missiles as an intrusion on their territory, and thus the Soviets were the intruders. And in Ukraine, the Russians saw NATO expansion right to their borders as an intrusion, and thus NATO was the intruder. So here's Cuba and the U.S., and the Russians are bringing in missiles. It's an existential threat against the United States. Those missiles could hit Washington in a matter of minutes. It's an existential threat to the proprietor, and therefore the Soviets were the intruders. With Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine has a 1,200-mile border with Russia. If NATO expands into Ukraine and they build NATO or U.S. bases on Russia's border, then those missiles, hypersonic missiles, can hit Moscow in 7 minutes. And that's an intrusion against the proprietor. Now, I have a son-in-law who says, oh, this threat of nuclear war, that's just Russian propaganda. They're just bluffing. Well, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, that's not a Russian organization. It's an international organization. They have the doomsday clock. And in the Cuban Missile Crisis, they put their doomsday clock at 7 minutes before midnight. That's how dangerous it was for the world for having a nuclear World War III. And the doomsday clock today, as I'm making this video, is listed as 90 seconds before midnight. Now, I'm hoping that by the time this video is out, there will be a ceasefire, and that'll be great. But as I'm speaking, we are at a greater, objectively speaking, not Russian propaganda. According to the atomic scientists, we're at 90 seconds, worse than the Cuban Missile Crisis. So are there other triggers that could set off this crazy territorial response? Well, what else could set off the inspired lunacy of the proprietor in this modern world of nuclear weapons and hypersonic missiles? Well, internal intruders. What? Watch this. Do you remember in 1945, we the Manhattan Project, developed the atomic bomb, but in just 4 years, the Soviets stole our secrets through the Rosenbergs and developed their own nuclear weapon. Only 4 years later, the Soviets had nuclear weapons, and that's the first Soviet test that you're looking at. Now that gave rise to McCarthyism. We need to hunt down these internal intruders, these spies. And McCarthyism lasted a good 10 years in the United States.
One communist on the faculty of one university is one communist too many. One communist among the American advisors at Yalta was one communist too many. And even if there were only one communist in the State Department, even if there were only one communist in the State Department, there could still be one communist too many.
Lasted 10 years. So let's take a look at this. In the last 4 years, 10 million people came into the United States in caravans. Let's assume that 1 out of every 5,000 of these people was a terrorist, carrying nuclear weapons, a dirty bomb, anthrax, botulism, foot and mouth disease. Okay? Just make that assumption for a second. That's 2,000 potential terrorists that entered our country in the last 4 years. Now you think, that's paranoid, that's far-fetched, Jerry. And even I thought, maybe I'm being too paranoid. But here is 124 Iranians flew to Mexico and entered our country through Mexico. 530 people from China, Hong Kong, and Macau flew to Mexico and entered our country through Mexico illegally. 386 aliens on the terrorist watch list entered our country through Mexico. 10,000 immigrants from Iran, Afghanistan, Egypt, and Syria entered our country. So if we had some kind of an internal 9/11-like event, that would inspire, like a dirty bomb. That would inspire the lunacy of McCarthyism, which is a very powerful emotion. Lighting the fuse, contagion, collective hysteria, mass psychosis. So, in sum, an attack on the homeland from outside or inside leads to a territorial response, as ferocious as a Rottweiler guarding his property. When it becomes national, it involves contagion, mass psychology, and inspired lunacy. So now let's summarize this entire lecture, because we're done. Let me summarize what we have talked about here. We have 5 little things that we talked about. The first part was male territoriality and breeding rights. Remember? Fish do it, elephant seals do it, and humans act out the same biogram in the male biogram, by the way, in spreading their genes. Jealousy and competition for breeding rights. 95% of all homicides are committed by men. 80% of the victims are men. What you see going on your right is what you see going on your left. It's part of an algorithm that's kind of encoded into our biology, spreading their seed as far and wide as possible. Disclaimer, remember, not an excuse for male behavior, not condoning it, not rationalizing it, but trying to understand these biological predispositions. Part 2, we talked about testosterone, and after puberty, men produce 10 times more testosterone than women, and we see the changes. And we had this diagram of the role of testosterone in male aggression, pre-castration, post-castration, and then when we added testosterone, you can see that testosterone by itself, even in a castrated male, causes aggression to go up sixfold. We looked at testosterone and breeding and plumage and how males demonstrate their prowess and strength and facial hair and their symbols of strength, and how they associate muscle cars with breeding and with females, and that's how most hot rods are advertised. And deep voice is symbolic in the animal kingdom. Deep voice, more testosterone, more power. Disclaimer, another one. Not all women are attracted to men with facial hair or muscle cars or tattoos or deep voices, okay? But there is a biological predisposition among males to develop and display these traits because they believe they attract females. Part 3, males in groups, hunters, loyalty, the brotherhood, and that one of the important elements of human Homo sapien history is that the use of tools and male bonding was essential for the survival of our species. Okay? We are not strong enough individually, even with a tool, to conquer the world, but as a group, as a band of brothers hunting together, we have incredible skill in surmounting all odds. Fraternity hazings, initiation rites, basic training in the military, vows taken in the priesthood, Freemasons, secret societies, Skull and Bones, Knights Templar, the Mafia, many male organizations throughout history. These are the tattooed gang members, tattoos, rings, symbols, badges, all signs of membership in the Brotherhood of Hunters. Then we talked about Part 4, the male biogram in sports as an epiphenomena, a ritual that enacts out the drama of the territorial imperative of my region against your region. And so my territory against your territory over period over land, scrimmage, downs, yardage. In football, the home team wins 50% of the time, 57% of the time. The proprietor is more ferocious, has more testosterone. The purpose of securing territory is breeding rights in the animal kingdom, but in sport, it's scoring. Okay, interesting term. Scoring symbolically means you're placing a seed in a female receptacle. In soccer, in hockey, in basketball, and only one sperm makes it through out of the millions of sperm in the vaginal tract. Only one player gets to place the seed in the hoop or the net. When that happens, there's an orgiastic cry from the fans in the vicariously watching the ritual. Now, the final part to this talk was about the male biogram in politics. And we asked the question, do men vote for alpha males more? And the answer is yes, they do. Males gravitate towards alpha males and towards hero worship. Now, there's a different poll, but still you could see that 36% of women voted for Trump, which means that females are still involved in this process. The inspired lunacy of the proprietor is a powerful instinctual response, ferocity, violence, irrationality, passion, loss of control, rage, road rage, okay? This man killed his neighbor because his neighbor threw a mattress onto his property. He got sentenced to 25 years in prison. Can you imagine him sitting there in prison saying, I am spending 25 years of my life here because I lost control. I couldn't control myself. And I had to kill the man who stepped on my property with an old mattress. If I took that mattress to the junkyard, I would have saved 25 years of my life. I lost control. My unconscious took over. My biological predispositions destroyed my rationality. At a collective level, this is expressed as nationalism, patriotism, populism, nativism, and that gets a lot of bad press in today's world. But there's a good side to it, and there's a bad side to it. The good side of that is, I mean, that's how we defeated Hitler. Patriotism, people volunteering against the intrusion. If we didn't have those things, you know, the Russians don't call it World War II. They call it the Great Patriotic War. 26 million Russians fought off the intruders and died. But the bad side of these expressions of territoriality are xenophobia, prejudice, violence, racism. Okay? So that's the dark side of it. So alpha males display symbols of power and strength in the animal kingdom, and so too in the political arena. And that they possess the most desirable females, because that's the purpose of the whole thing, although it's all in the symbolic level. But their platform is ultimately territorial defense against intruders, building a wall against intruders, deporting intruders, imposing tariffs on exploitative intruders, imposing travel bans on unwelcome intruders. That's what the male territorial political platform is like. Trump just last week banned 43 countries from sending citizens here. The danger in the inspired lunacy of the propriety, however, is ferocity, is irrationality, is contagion, mass psychosis. All that is needed is the appropriate trigger. Now, once that is triggered, all hell can... Just like the guy who spends 25 years of his life because a man threw a mattress on his property, when it happens at a collective level, that's where the danger really lies. In the nuclear world, just the opposite is required. Rationality is required, caution is required, deliberateness is required, impulse control is required, and we need to be paying attention to the fact that as I'm making this video, it's still 90 seconds before midnight, and let's hope that a ceasefire happens soon. I hope when you see this, it will have happened. Trigger events can elicit acting on impulse, lunacy, collective hysteria, mass psychology. So that completes our journey into males and into territoriality. One last postscript reminder, though, okay? And that is, this is all biologically rooted, okay? These are the genes that have been implicated in male territoriality. There is such a thing as female territoriality. We're talking about male territoriality here. These are genes, okay? And let me make a statement. That doesn't mean all males will end up as toxic males or alpha males or violent, okay? It is a biological predisposition. Now, all males have this, and it's unlike, here are 4 traits: homosexuality, criminality, obesity, alcoholism. Those are 4 things that are heritable, okay? There is a heritability factor in those things. Some people, not all males, not all people, have a predisposition towards alcoholism, okay? It's an inherited biological predisposition for some people. Now, that doesn't mean you're predestined to be an alcoholic. It depends on your upbringing, your training, your parenting, your experiences, whether or not you will manifest as an alcoholic. But there is a biological predisposition for some people. What's unique about territoriality, though, territorial biology is possessed by all males, even zebras. So this isn't just some males. All males have this, okay? So that completes our story. And if you like some of the references here, I've got 2. I wrote a book some time ago called Psychology Underground. There's a chapter in there that's relevant, has a lot of the references. You can get it on Amazon, or you can, if you want a paperback version, that's Kindle, you can get a paperback version by writing me. I wrote another chapter in another book published by a publisher in New England, and that's a very expensive book. But if you write to me, I can try to get you a review copy or a chapter that backs up what we're saying with the references here. So that takes care of our story, and I want to thank you very much for watching.